Hey guys, so before we get into the video, I want to go over a couple of things. If you are an Edwin's Generation or a Homeboys Got Receipt channel fan, then you might recognize that this is from a stream that we all did a couple of weeks ago, where myself and other Dobby Vanity survivors spoke on our experiences and final thoughts with Chris Hansen and his whole handling of the case and other cases. If you've been digging into that, you've probably seen my face a lot. So for that reason, this stream was a way for other survivors to really kind of get their voices heard on their experiences. And as much as I would love to start this video off with the amazing monologue that Edwin started the stream off with, talking about how great I am and what's gonna come on my channel and whatever, I cut it for the sake of not boring you all with a terribly long video. Edwin was kind enough to send me all 4 hours of the 9-hour stream where we talked about everything together. And I've been editing it down for the last couple of weeks, and that's what you're about to see. So forget the rambling. I'm going to let Edwin and Ashlee from August take this over and go forward.
What can we expect from this show as far as, like, you know, anything else besides what I already said, like, you know, like Chris Hansen, why we're doing the show essentially?
Well, I think it's important that we hear more from Kylie and Lizz and like other survivors on their opinions on things, because obviously I'm pretty outspoken with all of my opinions towards Chris Hansen and that whole circus, if you will. And I think with this show specifically, I really want to talk about, you know, some of the things that we've all picked up on in his streams that are going on right now, like the one on Wednesday. It was actually, you know, objectively, it was a good stream with Fallon and Zach Neal, but the comment section was kind of a mess towards other survivors that have come out against him, like myself and like other people. And I think it's important that we kind of elaborate a little bit further on why we're doing what we're doing, because I think people are confusing it with just drama because they're not looking at every aspect of things. They're only looking at one and then getting mad about it when they're not looking at the whole picture. So I think that's really important, and we'll get a lot of clarity with that today.
Oh yeah, this is everybody. Everyone say hi.
Hi.
Oh, good. You know, I think the larger part of why I want to do the show as well is because people get so caught up on the whole Chris Hansen thing that they forget who's even he's the major part. Why is he the major part of this entire conversation, right? If everybody here can quickly just like summarize their experience with Dobby Vanity and, you know, what essentially brought you to go on to Chris Hansen.
Well, basically, I knew Dobby when I met him when I had just turned 13, and I only knew him for about a year or so, and he, you know, assaulted me and just kind of scared me into silence, and I let it fester for a long time, and eventually I saw, to keep a long story short, I saw Chris Hansen was going to be looking into him, so I just, you know, it was like one of those like shoot your shot type of things, and a bunch of people, I ended up making a post with photos of me and Dobby to prove, you know, I knew this guy. This is him in my bedroom when I was 13, and it got his attention, and he ended up DMing me on Twitter. And I thought it was cool because everybody thinks Chris Hansen, they think like the Slayer, you know, because he was fairly new into YouTube. So it was before many controversies had, you know, gotten big. And even with the Onision one starting to build, people weren't really talking about it. So I just thought that I could trust him to take it and get the story out there and help us with, you know, alleged connections.
And how long did you know Dobby Vanity for? Like, what was the time span?
I think we stopped talking in the summer of 2009, but we still like occasionally texted throughout the rest of the year, but then we just lost contact. So it was about a year.
Well, when I was 13 on MySpace, Dobby actually reached out to me, and we ended up hanging out, and we met through MySpace. It was before like Blood on the Dance Floor and all that, so he was just like known as the hair god, so he reached out to me, and then when we hung out, that's when he me and I was only 13. I reached out to Chris because I'm older now. I'm almost 28 years old, so I figured I've dealt with my trauma over the years, and I've seen other survivors come forward, and I felt that it was possibly another way to get, you know, awareness and more, you know, just it widespread.
So I met Dobby when we started talking when I was 12 or 13 on MySpace, and we messaged for a while. I met him in person for the first time when I was 14, but I had my first physical experience with him when I was 15. And then from there, it was kind of every year when he came into town. So 15, 16, 17, and 18. And then I talked up until I was 21. So that would have been like the middle of 2017. And then I actually reached out to Chris via email with two of my other friends who have since been on the show after I saw that he was covering this story.
Yeah, so you have the most recent like experiences with Davi, huh?
Yeah, it wasn't immediately, but if anyone watched Fallon's interview with Chris Hansen and she talked about like blocking people, I was one of those people. So around the time that they got engaged or whatever was kind of when we stopped talking completely.
And you said your timeline was around like 10 years?
Yeah, I knew him for 9 years, almost 10 years.
So Liz, okay, so one of the things that you wanted to point out that was kind of disappointing to you was the mental health aspect with Chris Hansen, right? Because was it that he led you to believe that there would be more like therapeutical services or anything like that, or what was it?
Yeah, well, yeah, because I mean, we've even heard on some of live streams he's been doing that he's trying to look or help get counseling or therapy for survivors.
And what we are trying to do and trying to figure out is to figure out a way that you could set up a fund or you could have counseling available for survivors and victims. And we're in discussions now with some therapists and some therapy services to see if we can do that. I mean, ideally, what I'd love to do would be to get some sort of a trade out. You know, therapy is an incredible part of recovery. And I think while it's been very helpful for some of the survivors to come on the show and talk about their experiences, I think that it would be good to get people some help, and I'd like to figure out a way to do that. But
directly reached out to him about a week after my interview, letting him know that I was like struggling mentally and I was going through a lot. And yeah, that wasn't met with like, yeah, I'll help you out, or I have this resource or anything like that. I mean, from my understanding in the live streams, he's saying that he's going to be trying to get assistance for there's, you know, that he has resources that he's speaking with currently to try to get, you know, those type of services or resources for other survivors.
And what did he tell you?
And I can read it directly. I just said that I'm definitely trying to reach out to see if I can get some counseling, but otherwise I had a fun week and I went on about my weekend. Then he said, well, good. I hope being on the show helpful for you, ... I know it was for a lot of other girls.
So basically you reached out with the intent of seeing if, you know, he could help point you in the direction of counseling. And he said, well, you know, being on my show was helpful for other people.
It's like, okay, well, that's nice. Like, what about what about me? I need some help right now, you know?
I mean, I have heard him say that live though as well, that like, you know, it's been cathartic for victims to speak up. And I understand that's definitely, it's not to say that it isn't, because it definitely is, you know. That's why sure. I also do these live streams, to help you guys have a voice. But the difference here is that I've never promised to hook you guys up or ever mentioned hooking you up with therapy in any way. I don't know. I think that's kind of weird because you kind of disregarded what you said in your text, it seems.
Exactly. And then, you know, it is good for us to, like, you know, in that moment, like, I feel like I'm getting my voice heard, and, you know, you do get some of that power, you know, just restoring some power as a person. But like, that doesn't mean that like, I'm fixed. You know, I need some, you know, we need help sometimes. And sometimes bringing all that out too also, you know, brings up more emotions and different things. So it's helpful, and it is giving awareness out there. But I mean, if you're going to say that you're going to provide resources or therapy, anything like that, then you need to follow through, because otherwise it's just another empty promise. When I did it, I was like, I don't know exactly if he has the resources and stuff like that, but, you know, why not give it a try? That's why I texted him that. I think like a week or two later is when he started talking about trying to get mental health services for other, you know, for survivors, but I haven't heard anything. That's not
even an unfair question to even put it in place with him, because even before he took on the Davi Vanity story and he was talking to the Onision, you know, guest talking about Onision, he brought up therapy and counseling, that kind of thing, you know, from the start, early on, like late last year. It's not like anybody here expected Chris to like save the world and like, you know, take Davi Vanity down. It's more so that like, yo, it's about having integrity and sticking to your word, or like keeping it real. Like, because the other thing that I wanted to ask you about is the sort of vetting process that he had with you. Like when did you contact him versus like going live, or how did that whole thing go with you?
I contacted him in May, I believe, by email. I forwarded the same email to him 3 times within a month, And then he reached out to me on, I believe it was the day before the live stream, is when he reached out to me. And it was a 15-minute phone call. And it was after, like I said, after like 4 weeks of me trying to get in contact with him, resending the same email. And then within that 15-minute phone call, I was at work, I'm a nurse, so it's just kind of hard to like jump back into it as well. But so during the process, what got him to go, okay, yeah, you're gonna be on the show tomorrow, was me answering what movie it was that me and Dobby actually ended up seeing. So as soon as I answered that, he was like, yep, you're gonna be on the show tomorrow, and we'll go from there.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, according to his Q&A, he says that, you know, we do a lot of research, we interview guests, we vet them. I believe, you know, he actually did say in his Q&A that
we do a lot of research, and obviously it depends on which particular story we're doing. Some takes more than others, or some guests take more than others. Some guests, you know, are easy to verify. There are some people who have come forward and claim things, and just I could never verify it, that they'll never be on the show. So I mean, you know, you see the people you see, obviously, but there are a lot of folks who just don't make the cut, and we can't verify things, so they don't come on the show.
a lot of guests try to come on the show, and he has to say no to a lot of them, but they do a very strict vetting process. But you're saying all he did was ask you what movie you saw, or wait, can you?
Well, he asked me what happened, and then he was just listening, and then as soon as he asked that one question and I answered, he's like, yep, you're gonna be on the show tomorrow. It was that fast. Also, I don't, you know, I'm a nurse, and I also went to a protest, and he was saying something about, oh, well, maybe we could have you on for, you know, those two things as well, and for you know, the protests.
See, okay, okay, this is my commentary, but it almost sounds like he's trying to hop onto like things that are hot and happening or whatever, just like trying to trial and error, see what'll stick.
No, I I can definitely see where that's what can be interpreted for sure.
Did you want to get into how he covered a story about your friend Daisy?
Sure. So my friend Daisy Coleman, she's okay. Well, she was amazing, and sorry, she was also a survivor of, and that she actually has a documentary too, which she speaks about it. Daisy's just amazing. Like, she's done so much for like other survivors, and it's just really sad. Like, she was a really good person. So just think about her. I'm just like, you know, because she's not here. So he actually worked with her previously on, I think, a Dateline show with Elizabeth Smart, which is another survivor as well. And so I reached out to him and was like, could you please, you know, possibly put this on your, you know, social medias? And he was like, well, I asked first if he remembered her, and he said, absolutely. And I said, well, that was my friend. And I told him the unfortunate news, and he was like, yeah, absolutely. I'll put it up on Twitter, and can you send me the link to it? And I did. And then I think it was the next day, he asked me, did they reach their goal? And I was like, yeah, they did. And I was like, thank you for sharing it. And then he took it down from his Twitter, which I thought was just really weird.
And he did like a three-part series on her on True Crime Daily then. Knowing that he had done a story on her, like a 3-part story on, you asked him if he would, like, you know, share her GoFundMe for her funeral services, and he had agreed to it. And then he asked you if they reached their goal, and he said yes. I mean, you said yeah, and then he took down the tweet.
Yeah, but he just removed it.
That's kind of weird. I think that's weird because, like, you would think that sharing a tweet about something like that, especially on a story that you covered, would make you look good. So why would you take that down? That's like a good thing to do.
Right. So I just thought it was weird that he took it down. Like, I mean, and then he was on her, like, she was on his show, which got, you know, at the time, like, got him like views and ratings and stuff when it was on TV. So I just don't I really don't understand the reason for removing it. And I'm appreciative to anybody who donated that, you know, may have seen it from his page or. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I also think that kind of like thing, the fact that, you know, he covered her story, could have, I would say that could contributed to you wanting to reach out in, you know, and trusting him, because that's the whole point of this whole thing. Like, the reason why people trust him is because of the perceived credibility and reputation that he has. You know, he seems trustworthy, and then you start to go on his show, and then he removes the tweet. It's like, wait, what's going on here? Was this all a facade? Is this all for show? Does he only want to look like a good person, or what is it? Like, why would he do that? I'm
from Michigan, so I've grown up watching him on TV since I was young, from when he was on the news. So yeah, for sure, it's just kind of disappointing when you see people that you've grown up watching, and it just shows that like not everybody is who they seem, I guess. It's kind of disappointing that there's all these empty promises, all these weird circumstances, all these times when accountability is not being taken. It's just, like I said, disappointing.
Let's go. So what you got to say about Chris Hansen? How you feel? Are you a big fan or what?
Where do you want me to start?
He never offered like therapy. You didn't ever like ask him for therapy. That never came up in your kind of flow, right?
That was never discussed, but obviously a lot of other things weren't discussed either, because a lot like Lizz, there was kind of no vetting involved. I mean, I have receipts, I've posted them, on Twitter and other places like that, but called me the first time when I actually missed his call, so I should have gone on like a week or two before my actual stream. But I missed his call, and he left me a voicemail saying that he wanted me to go on that day. So he called me back like a week or two later when I actually went on, and that was the day before that stream was supposed to happen. So there wasn't really a lot of notice either way, but we talked on the phone for maybe like 5 minutes. He just asked how I knew Davi and stuff like that, and I hit a couple points that I wanted to talk about, and he kind of, mentioned a couple things that he wanted to talk about, but really that was it. I didn't send him any pictures or really any proof that I knew Davi.
Did you talk about what you're going to talk about on the show before on the phone?
Yes and no. So he asked me towards the end of the phone call if I had anything to say, like if I wanted to apologize to anybody, or if we could talk about me having mistreated people who turned against Davi before I did, when I still supported him. And I said that that was fine, but I definitely didn't think it would be what the whole show was about.
And that's because, while you knew Davi for like almost 10 years, there was a point where you would be, I don't know how would you describe like the way you talk to haters, I guess?
I just defended him like anybody else would. I mean, anybody who supported him at the time. That first stream I don't have a problem with it because there was nothing that wasn't truthful in there. But there are a lot of people who have gone on the show also who were engaging in the same behavior. And again, I'm not completely blaming him for bringing that up or how that stream went, because everything in there was true. It was just interesting that, I don't know, it felt like that aspect overshadowed what had actually happened to me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's kind of like part of the effect, you like obviously, like why wasn't that a focus with say Fallon's interview? Like of course she defended him, like it's kind of like a thing when you're friends with someone, close friends. Yeah, you believed him. That makes sense. So but you also knew him for like a huge span of years, so I guess you could have shared more information.
Yeah, it seemed really dramatic because, I was made out to be this big bully or whatever, which I'm not saying that I wasn't, but it was never to the extent, like I never told anyone to kill. It was like it never reached any kind of level like that. So it was just interesting, I guess, how the stream went.
Do you feel like so the vetting process with you personally, like you feel like he wasn't very thorough as far as like fact checking you or any sort of background actual check?
Like I never wanted to say this before because obviously I am who I say I am. I have the receipts and I posted them other places and I didn't want to cast any doubt, but now that this is all out in the open, the bottom line is I really could have been anybody messaging him. I could have just been a random person and I don't think he would have known any difference.
Since you knew Davi for so long, has any guest gone on and you were like, okay, Chris did not do his homework or like something like that?
Yes, and I guess when it comes to the investigation as a whole, there are, how do I say this? There are people involved in the case that shouldn't have been had Chris looked a little harder. These aren't people that you would want like in the public eye, I guess.
Well, because he presents himself as sort of like the authority figure in the whole investigation, as he calls it.
A lot of people believe or did believe, and I definitely believed at the time that Chris was kind of the guy that was going to connect you to the authorities, and that is just 100% not how it works. I just literally called up my police department and made the report with them, and Chris had no involvement whatsoever.
How do you think Chris has dealt with criticism?
Well, that's the thing that's so frustrating, is because he doesn't. He likes to shift blame onto other people rather than just take accountability for what he does. Or something I want to talk about really quick, and I think Ashlee's probably going to talk about this too, because she's really the one who was affected by this. But his fiance went on one of John Swan's streams and was making comments about her, saying, I don't know the quote, offhand, but something like, other survivors are mad at Ashlee and I understand why, and really just the things that you should never say to someone who's a victim of, especially in a stream that wasn't even about this. It wasn't about Davi. It wasn't about anything.
Hey guys, really quick. I do want to let everybody know that there is an update with the Gabrielle situation, and that she did reach out to me to apologize personally with a phone call. She apologized for her behavior and I did accept it and forgive her. But I think that it's important to keep this part in, just so everybody can get full context of the situation and just examples of things that have happened under Chris Hansen's control. So back to them.
To my knowledge, Chris knows that happened, but he hasn't addressed it. I think the reason why he won't address anything else is because if he speaks on it publicly or apologizes in any way, he has to draw attention to it. So people that just blindly, support him and follow him, and maybe don't necessarily follow John or Ashlee or whoever, if he doesn't address it, then they won't see that, and they probably won't want to do the work to go look at what it actually is. I think his only defense is to attack people in ways that kind of distract people who are watching from the issue, so that in hopes that, maybe they'll go and talk about something else instead of what's actually happening. Like, I obviously believe that he has a problem with the videos that John Swan made, because everything in them is true. So he's just trying to get people to talk about something else.
If you're wondering how certain YouTubers and their Twitter accounts are growing so quickly, engaging in targeted harassment and using platform manipulation to promote their false narratives. Read this. And this article says, Russians again targeting Americans with disinformation, Facebook and Twitter say. He's essentially saying that YouTubers are using Russian tactics of disinformation to grow our platforms. I don't understand. I don't know. It feels weird, because, in text he'll tell me that some of these things don't apply to me. So it's like, okay, but why don't you just say John Swan's name? Obviously, most of what you're saying is you're so bothered by John Swan, but like, come on. Do you regret being on Hansen though?
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. Mostly, yes. I mean, I would say no because I felt some responsibility anyway to come forward when all these other people were. But the whole thing is honestly just turned into a shit show. And kind of, before I went on, I had talked to a couple people and was like, should I do this? And a lot of people say like, yeah, just talk about it. It'll make you feel better. It didn't. I didn't feel better after the stream. I don't feel better now.
And okay, here's the thing, because I think that maybe like what he said, because he's told Lizz that a lot of my guests have said that being on my show has made him feel better. And while I definitely think that's been a factor for a lot of people, I think that the handling with you specifically was probably some of the more like poor handling I've seen on his show. So especially considering like, you're victim of Davi, so it's like it's really weird for him to like assume that he's doing you a favor essentially.
And I guess about that, I hate to bring it up again because it made me look like an idiot, and I want to believe it was kind of just like a misspeak on his part as well. But during that second stream when he asked me that Black Lives Matter question, like after that, I was not doing well.
I see something else interesting, and that is that a number of the girls, now young women, who I've talked to and interviewed for this case, are also involved in the protests, the Black Lives Matter movement, in the aftermath of George Floyd's murder in Minneapolis. Do you see any parallels there?
I kind of like had to disappear for, a couple days off of the internet because it kind of turned into a meme, and rightfully so. Like, it was a stupid question and a stupid answer, but I think the idea that he makes people feel better is interesting, to say the least.
There are some criticisms that people have not just hit you with, but also other survivors, like, well, why are you surprised? It's Chris Hansen. I mean, what did you expect, right? Well, why won't you just go to the police? What do you think Chris Hansen was gonna do?
Well, yeah, so in that aspect, I did do that, and a lot of people are doing that. It's not talked about in that way. Like, we don't share a copy of the police report or whatever. I mean, that's just not how it went down. But a lot of us have gone to the police. I went to the police even before I ever contacted Chris. But as far as, the people who are like, why did you trust, he's a TV personality, why would you trust him? It's not because of what he actually is, it's because of what he tells people he is. And I mean, some of that responsibility, I guess, falls on us or the internet too, because we really made him out to be something that he wasn't, which was like, Chris Hansen, the guy who puts in jail or whatever. And that's just really not the case. There are so many things that go on behind that. He's just the face and the voice. We did put some trust in him, but it was based on the words that he said to us. Like, he said, I'm investigating this. I'm going to help. I want to put him in jail, stuff like that. So, I mean, that's what we believed.
I think it's weird. I think it's unfortunate. And, I was even telling Kylie, like, before we did this call, like, yo, like, I think there's definitely a lot more to discover with Kylie, considering she knew Davi for so long, like 9 years, and all Chris Hansen was interested in, mostly interested in focusing on was making her apologize to Ashlee and all this awkward stuff, and asking her a Black Lives Matter question, and all this, like, that's the thing that stands out from the shows. Can I
say something about that really quick?
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of what you said about how I knew him for a long time and I saw a lot of stuff. That's true, and actually, when I was talking to Chris the couple of times that we were on the phone, I wanted to mention a couple of examples. Like, there are people that he has interviewed that I know for a fact are not telling the truth because I've had personal experiences and I've seen it, but he didn't let me talk about those.
Oh, wait. Okay, see, that's interesting. So you've actually, like, met some of the girls that have been on this show. Is that what you're saying? Yes,
and people who have, I guess, worked with Davi, or however you want to put it.
Right.
It's so frustrating listening to everything that they were talking about again. Like, I don't know if you saw me off to the side, but I've just been shaking my head this whole time. Like, it's so disappointing. The whole GoFundMe thing with Lizz really makes me upset because it's like you guys said, like, not to go too far into what they've already talked about, but it's like you guys said, like, he should be grasping for straws to make him look better. So him deleting that is just like, I don't know. It's like that just shows his true intentions, in my opinion.
What is your take with the therapy stuff?
It's ridiculous. I've said this before, and I will say this until I'm blue in the face, but it took Pastel Bell like 24 hours to like just ask people if any therapist would be willing to donate their time, and then they did. And with Chris Hansen on his Q&A, he says, when people asked him if he was going to help survivors with therapy, he says he will find a way to have them sponsor the show or like trade to where it benefits him in some way rather than just benefiting, the survivors. And I think, I mean, everybody saw me kind of freak out on Twitter whenever he had the therapist, Dr. Grande on, who's a reputable therapist, and he had him on to talk about cancel culture instead of helping us in some way or anything like that. It's just super frustrating to me because every week I hope that there won't be another disappointment or there won't be something else to make me upset, and there always is. And last week was therapy, and it's just right. I'm trying to form a coherent sentence about it because it makes me really upset.
That's fair. That's fair. If those of you who I mean, I feel like I have to summarize Chris Hansen's show because people just don't keep up with it as much as they once used to, right?
Yeah.
So last week, Chris Hansen had the YouTuber / Dr. Todd Grande on his show. Now, this could be greatly beneficial because this guy is he is a therapist, and he talks about a lot of human behavior on his own YouTube channel. So you would think it'd be beneficial for him to be of help to analyze maybe some of Davi's behavior or how to handle like survivors or something of the sort, something related, right?
Well, he's more obsessed with talking about John Swan and how he's being canceled on the internet than he is with actually helping us.
Well, and that's a problem because I don't even think that Chris Hansen is being canceled. I would argue strongly against that. And I think that people say he's being canceled are his supporters and himself. You know, they make himself an extreme victim.
His supporters are so fixated on, oh my God, stop the drama. Oh my God, stop talking about Chris Hansen. But they're not looking at the other side and what we're actually saying. It's like Kylie said earlier, they're just watching what he's doing. So they don't know anything that's happening and they're choosing to ignore it all. And it's like, there's a reason. Trust me, I don't want to talk about Chris Hansen every week. Every week I hope that he doesn't do something stupid, but you know, it just never fails. He just continuously does more and more. And it's important stuff that has to be talked about. It's not just, it's not trying to cancel him, and it's not just drama. It's he like had the whole internet and YouTube eating out of the palm of his hand. And then when we started questioning it, he didn't do anything to fix it. He just kept making it worse and worse and worse. And here we are.
Yeah. I know it's like frustrating. It's like, yeah, the bigger picture obviously is Davi Vanity, but like this dude keeps getting in the way, making things about himself, and that's the frustrating part. That's why we're talking about Chris Hansen right now.
I'm so sick and tired of people saying that, because people, you know, are in the chat right now and they're saying like, "Oh, why are you still talking about Chris? You should be talking about Davi."
Oh,
we just got Davi's taken down last week.
We're doing things about Davi. Like, what is it? Davi Vanity started an, and before he could even post, it was taken down by. So. That was a good thing.
I don't know. It's a hard line, because I understand. If I was a viewer and I wasn't behind the scenes seeing everything every day, I would probably feel the same way. I would probably be like, okay, this again. But we're here telling you, like, this is important to discuss. There are more things every week that come out that are important to talk about, unfortunately.
Even somebody in the chat said it's pretty important to warn people of Chris Hansen. He's turned out to be pretty predatory himself, using victims in their stories to prop himself up. It's so hard to disagree with that. I want to disagree with that so hard, but Chatter, I think you hit the nail.
So originally the segments ended with a panel discussion with all four of us talking. While it was mostly all of us just discussing things further and kind of doubling down on what we already said and just kind of picking up at smaller details and just overall having a really good discussion about everything. It was also a lot of...
I gotta pee. Please don't talk about anything too important.
Well, I mean,
don't talk about the comments yet, because the comments
I love that I went first.
Okay, super chats.
Chaos. If you guys want to see another, 20 or 30 minutes of discussion, then let me know. And I will definitely edit it down for a follow-up video in the future, because I am going to continue to cover this. This is also a really good time for me to tell you to subscribe and like the video if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have made it this far, I really needed something to kind of occupy my brain in this weird time of life that we're all going through. And I'm so grateful to Edwin for passing this project on to me and giving me something to do. And he's just overall been really encouraging me to take this commentary route, and I just really appreciate it. Also, a huge shout out to Kylie and Lizz. I will leave their links in the description down below so you can go follow them on Twitter and show them some love. I'm sure that there will be more chaos to report on in the coming weeks. So I will see you guys then. Thank you so much again for watching, and I guess that's it. Bye.